The next ballot measure is 26-117, general obligation bonds for fire and other measures. And Speaker is Mr. Randy Leonard. Thank you.
You guys get an A in civics. I've been standing in the back, and this has been a long evening, so thank you for waiting to listen to me. I asked that ballot measure 117 be referred to the voters because I'm the commissioner in charge of the fire bill. For over 10 years, the budget at the city has become so tough each time that the amount of money that's been set aside to replace worn-out fire engines and fire trucks has decreased every year, to the point that we have in downtown Portland a fire engine that is 18 years old with 175,000 miles on it, which is well beyond their useful lives even as a backup fire engine. Just this last June up in Seattle, a fire engine arrived at an apartment house fire. A mom and actually she was a mom to one of the kids. Two of them were related to her. A woman and 4 children were trapped in the building. The first arriving fire engine that was 12 years old had 120,000 miles on it. The pump broke down at the fire. Those firefighters had to stand and wait for the next arriving fire engine, and by the time they got into the building, we lost all 5 people. That cannot happen in Portland. I was advised not to bring this forward in this economy, but not only am I privileged to be the commissioner in charge of the fire bureau, I was a firefighter in this city for 25 years, also working just a couple blocks away from here over 30 years ago. I didn't feel like I could look at myself in the mirror if I didn't do everything I could to make sure that the men and women who are out there in the street protecting us as we sit here have the best equipment available to protect us. And in fact, the fire bureau has been able to demonstrate that as these fire engines and trucks have gotten older, they increasingly break down on the way to emergency responses. We've never had a tragedy happen since that phenomena began as these fire engines and trucks have gotten older, but I do not want to be here having to explain why it did happen if it does happen. In addition to that, it also funds new radios for firefighters and police officers. We currently have an old technology known as analog radios. We are wanting to upgrade to digital radios that will allow our firefighters and police officers, for instance, to talk to the state police on the same radio. Today they can't do that. With the new technology, they'll be able to talk to other agencies, whether they're federal, state, local, or other states such as Vancouver. These are expensive projects in the grand scheme of things, but in my view, there's nothing more important that a government does to protect its citizens against tragedy. I want to stop there and give you a chance to ask questions. Jim.
You say there's nothing more important than protecting the population, and I totally agree. How come we are putting, what is it, $60–70 million a year of property tax money into urban renewal instead of those basic services?
The short answer is urban renewal can't be spent to buy fire engines and fire trucks or buy radios.
What is general city money, excuse me, it's general property tax money that is diverted to the urban renewal district. If it were not diverted, you'd have it for the general fund, which would include the fire.
That's not accurate, and I can only tell you that the state statute only allows for those funds to be used in that district for the construction of projects in that district. And the last comment is many of those districts generate way more revenue than what the bonds cost to repay and actually do replenish the general fund. The Pearl District is a great example of that.
I'm talking
Let me just one question per person. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious if there's any opportunity to get some of those upgrades, especially in technology, from something like Homeland Security, where they're trying to bring up all those services so that they communicate cross state, cross things like that, and what's being done to work with those federal government dollars.
That's an excellent question. This is the radio buy is actually part of a larger project the city's working on to replace the computer-aided dispatch system, the radio system, the transmission system, the police bureau and the fire bureau's emergency management system. We have been able to get some federal dollars for some of those pieces in that larger project, which is about actually $100 million. We're only asking for $39 million for the radios, but in that larger project, we have gotten federal assistance and a lot of federal guidance in the projects that we're working on. Yes, ma'am.
What is the impact on an average home for this measure?
If you have a $200,000 home, it would cost $28 a year. Yes.
Yeah, last month, the city council authorized $1,190,000 to replace dump trucks. I think currently up, I think it's up for a second reading. The city council is about to authorize another $900,000 for other maintenance vehicles, replacement and new ones, parks and other places. How can you justify asking the taxpayers to pay for fire trucks when fire trucks should be a much higher priority than dump trucks or trailers for park bureau or other maintenance vehicles?
And they are, and those types of apparatus are replaced when they're actually physically worn out. Some people who have argued against this measure have said long distance big rigs that have diesel engines often go 300, 400,000 miles before you're replacing them. Why do you want to replace a fire engine at 125,000 miles? And the reason is because fire engines, you cannot afford to have them fail. If you have a park bureau truck that fails with 300,000 miles, the worst that happens is some maintenance problem doesn't get fixed in a park. When a fire engine stops on the way to a fire, the consequences to that are beyond what we want to even think about. So we replace these on a much shorter schedule. When those are replaced, they're replaced because they're virtually worn out.
Shouldn't the fire engines been replaced before the dump trucks were replaced?
Well, we try to balance all of the services that we have with what revenue we do, and I think we do a pretty good job at it. Thank you all very much. I had one question though that was right there, I'm sorry.
I just noticed down here at the bottom of the summary, there's a 5-member citizen committee.
Yes.
That would be established to review the use
Yes.
of the money.
Yes.
Expenditures. Is that paid for out of the $72 million?
They will be volunteers, and we actually borrowed that from the 1998 bond measure that the voters approved for upgrading all the fire stations, including this one, earthquake-proofing them. We have a citizen oversight committee that ensures that every dollar is spent the way the voters intended for it to be spent. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you.